Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. I want to pick up where my colleague Ruth Dyson has just left off in speaking about her SOP 2 Clause 2, which, as has been noted, would insert after the current wording, the bill can only be submitted for royal assent if the bill has been submitted to the Health Select Committee for public consultation and comment prior to the third reading. Mr Speaker, this is my first opportunity I've had to speak on this particular piece of legislation, and I'm pleased to be doing it in the commencement clause because it cuts to the heart of the issue I have with the process that the government is going through at the moment. Normally a debate on a commencement clause is relatively non-controversial. The government's made a decision about the timing by which it wants to put a bill through. It often gives time, a little bit of time, for instance, for processes to be worked through. Recently, when the marriage equality legislation was passed, the commencement date for that particular bill was pushed out 3 or 4 months to allow the Department of Internal Affairs to put in place the arrangements for people for changing forms and so on. That kind of thing is acceptable when we come to a commencement date clause. Sometimes there's a reason to make a commencement date immediate when there is an immediate issue in front of the House, perhaps a taxation issue or something like that that requires that. This commencement clause, Mr Speaker, comes as part of a bill that has not had the kind of scrutiny that we would expect a piece of legislation to have. This bill, as has been stated by my colleague Chris Hipkins, was effectively introduced today for the purposes of this House. It is not a bill that was seen by other parties before it came into the House. It's been, along with it, as we would expect, we've had provided to us a regulatory impact statement, and as other colleagues have noted, this is the quality of the regulatory impact statement material that we're working with. Another great example of work from Transparent Tony, well known for his ability to let the public in on things. I know there was a story about Tony Ryle when he was a minister in the 1990s. He had a drawer full of OIA releases that he waited until people complained about before he actually released them. Otherwise they just stayed in the bottom drawer, unable to be found. That's Transparent Tony for you. But, Mr Speaker, the regulatory impact statement indicates to those of us on this side of the House that this bill needs select committee consideration, and that is the amendment that Ruth Dyson has put to the commencement clause, Mr Chair, is an amendment to push this bill to the Health Select Committee, so that rather than a blacked-out document like this, we actually would have the opportunity for members of that committee to talk with officials, to question interested groups, to bring in the carers and talk to them, to give them a chance to have their say here. And that is all the more important, and Ruth Dyson's amendment is all the more important, Mr Speaker, when we look at the Bill of Rights Act report from the Attorney-General. Because what the Attorney-General is saying in that at the end is, he says, on balance, I have concluded that the limitation to the right to a judicial review cannot be justified under Section 5 of the Bill of Rights Act. So what the Attorney-General is saying there is that what this bill does, the limiting of people's rights through the judicial process, can't be justified under the Bill of Rights Act. Surely, Mr Speaker, that alone would be a justification for this bill to go to the Health Select Committee, as Ruth Dyson's amendment to the commencement clause requests. Because when we have the Attorney-General, not a man loath to come to this House and throw Bill of Rights vets around, a person who has obviously thought carefully about this, has no doubt had strong advice to him from Crown Law and others, that this bill does breach the Bill of Rights and does breach people's right to a full judicial process. That should be the subject of extensive debate in a select committee. Ruth Dyson is offering that with her SOP to the commencement clause. Yes, Mr Speaker, it is unusual for a commencement clause to be amended in this way, but that is because the government has undertaken a most unusual process by bringing up this particular bill in the way that they have. Normally we would have seen a process whereby there were public submissions, we would have been able to look at the nature of a Bill of Rights vet that says that this breaches the Bill of Rights, a regulatory impact statement that has been largely withheld. All of those things would have been able to be considered by a select committee. So amending the commencement clause to allow now for a select committee process, while unusual, is appropriate in this case because of the actions that the government has taken. Mr Chair.
Chair, thank you for the ability